Hello, this is Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can reach us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com, and you can also reach us at 618-235-6959. Today I want to show you the handset part of the video. This is a 5500 AT&T, and this is Susan's telephone from California. And basically there's an earlier video of the base being repaired, 7, 8, 9, and 0, redial, and some of the other buttons didn't work on that keypad. And in that earlier video we showed that we repaired them and kind of what caused it. Now here I've got a battery that I'm charging off the battery plates off the base unit. And you do have to pay attention to positive and negative. These kind of a scientific connection going on here, but it does work. So, and you do have to pay attention to the polarity of this, because all batteries have polarities, and so do charging plates. And it can get confusing in some of the newer telephones because they will accept a charge from either way. So they have a circuit design built into them to sense that and work with how it charges on the newer ones. But anyway, what we have found here, this is the handset video of this telephone. Now, in the earlier video working on the base, we stated that we'd have to get into the handset and troubleshoot it. It was very hard to dial with a handset. Susan said something about the telephone would cut off at times. At this point, I haven't seen anything that caused that. We are going to resolder the battery plug connections and things like that. But this is a very difficult handset to get open, and I kind of want to move over to it a little bit and show you what we found. I just got it open, and I don't know if the video is picking it up or not, but what you're going to notice here is the keypad is very dirty. And even right in this area, there's some kind of, okay, that's just something that's stuck on there. That's one of the little tabs that you have to cut off. There's a whole bunch of tabs that you have to cut off. And if you can see that, that board is very dirty. I'll try to get some light on there to show you that. And you'll see darker spots where the conductive material on the keypad has hit and kind of worn these little circles into it. And that's from spills. And if you look over here at the keypad, now we're going to totally take this keypad out of here. And what we're going to do with this keypad is show this keypad to you. And you see all these little holes through the keypad? Basically, that's a plastic standoff that comes up through the keypad. It also goes through the keypad board. And then on the back of the board, you have to watch this ribbon cable. If any of this ribbon cable tears, it's a one-shot deal almost, and you'd have to put on a new ribbon cable or some different line. That ribbon cable is very difficult to work with. So you have all kinds of tabs here, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 just on this side. There's another 6 there. There's another 5 or 6 here, another 5 or 6 here. And basically what you have to do is cut those tabs off because they're melted down. So that's also a one-shot deal. They did not intend for this handset to be taken apart. They're plastic standoffs that come up through the body of the phone and through the board and through the pad, and then they're melted down on the back of the board, and you have to cut them off. So when you take one of these apart, it's not for the squeamish. You know, if you've never done this before, you might want to stay away from it, because there's a lot of different little traces here on the board that when you're cutting these tabs off, because they're pretty tough to cut off, especially on this row right here. If you cut through any of those traces and you don't know it or you don't realize it, it's not going to work. So there's a lot of work to it. is basically what it comes down to. And this board is totally dirty. And from what I'm seeing here, I don't know if the video's picking it up, not only is the whole board dirty, but more in this section right here, it's the dirtiest. So something has spilt down inside, and I'll show you the keypad also. You can see the discoloration on the keypad, and it tends to be right in this area mostly, but it does cover the whole thing. Everything looks to be dirty, but most of the darkness of the pad kind of works over in here and then all the way up and then over. So this keypad's had a spill in it. Sometimes you can tell from the front of the keypad, although the keypad is dirty, it's not a real indication of what went on here, but this is, and so you can basically tell that that's dirty. Now this is another situation. I always talk about how you want to be very careful around any kind of a conductive material. If you clean this with the wrong cleaners, it can come back and deteriorate the conductive material on these pads. And so it should be left up to somebody that does this every day or knows how to handle it. If any of this conductive material is damaged, basically you'll be either trying to repair it with other conductive material that can actually eat that conductive material, or you're going to be replacing a board, and you're not going to find a lot of readily available parts for this telephone. So it's just one of those things. Open with caution. And if you've never done it before, you probably don't want to open it. It's not a simple situation. I've been doing this a long time, and each one of them you have to be very careful with, and I do this all the time. So if I have to be super careful, I don't suggest someone that's only done something like this once or twice to even get involved in it, if you want to save your phone. So that's all I can tell you. We're going to kind of fade away here. I'll come back here in a little bit. We're going to have to clean this phone up and get it back into where we can put it all back together again. And so we're going to go ahead and take a short break. We'll be right back. Okay, now that we're back, I want to show you a couple of the Q-tips. This is just a couple of the Q-tips that we basically used to clean the board with, the PC board on the dial board. And we don't use Q-tips to clean the pad. That's a whole different cleaning process. But basically the pad is all clean now, and that's all ready to go. But we have to do a check on that, and I'm going to turn my meter here, and I'm going to put it close to the video. You might be able to hear the high-pitched little beep that it throws out while I'm checking these. I'm going to go ahead and touch these together. You may be able to hear this, you may not. And what I want to do is I want to check each individual pad. And I'm checking the conductivity of each little pad. We'll be finished with this in a second. Okay, so we know they're all good now, and that they have their conductivity. so basically what we can do is we can slip this, and you have to be very gentle with this telephone because this ribbon cable, like I mentioned before, is really delicate, and any kind of hard movement or roughness with it is going to tear it out of place, and if that happens, then we're going to have a problem. And so now this is another kind of a difficult step here. We got to get this pad back in the way it belongs and make sure that it's laying flat like it's supposed to. You don't want to really get any oil from your hands on this, so you know it's not a good idea to touch any of that. So now we're going to flip this all around and try to get this back into position where it's supposed to be, and then you just kind of have to work it back into place. Some of them are a little easier than others to go back into place, and some are a little more difficult, all while you watch this ribbon cable. You can't damage that ribbon cable. Well, you could damage it, but you'll be repairing it. That's for sure. So now what we want to do is we have to resolder. They have the connections for the charging circuit going through here. Right now what I'm doing is getting ready to resolder them back on. And I want to get them ready. I want to make new connections. I didn't care for the ones that were on there. It was connected, but and the reason why I'm doing it this way is because you don't want to rip and tear on these wires to bare just a little piece of it at the end. And with a pair of wire cutters, you're going to end up yanking the wire from the other solder position here. I want to check that too. Now, right now I'm going to kind of inspect this telephone for other little issues while I wait for my soldering iron to heat up. And so basically what we're going to do is we'll be right back here in a second. I want to troubleshoot this telephone a little bit and see if I can find any other situation of what might make the phone cut off. It could have been, you know, the dirty keypad with the crossover voltages could have caused it problems. There might be a loose battery connection of some sort. So right now we're going to troubleshoot that out real quick, and then we'll come right back and solder some things up and check the handset. So we'll be right back. Okay, now that we're back here, basically what we did was we went ahead and I resoldered the battery connection plug and resoldered some things that I didn't like on the main PC board of the handset, and also moved some components. You'll notice there's some diodes at this end, and they crunch them down. And I noticed a couple of them were kind of laying on top of each other, and you're not supposed to touch them. The legs are not supposed to touch. So, you know, kind of went through it and did what we could for it. And now basically we're going to drop it back down into the back where it's supposed to set. And now we have some connections. You want to be very careful of that ribbon cable. And so now what I want to do is work some of my screws back down into where they belong. And this is not a real simple process, because you don't want to tear the ribbon cable, but yet you want to get yourself enough room to work. So it's not a simple deal. You don't want to smash anything or tear any of the cables or any of the components. So got another one to go here. Get this guy back into place. And then now we have one more that we need to get to. This is for the antenna. I want to get that into place. Sometimes you can hold them. Okay. So now we kind of want to flip this unit over a little bit, and we want to start getting our charging points ready to be soldered up. I'm going to get my soldering done. So it's just not a simple thing where you peel it apart and start messing with it, because we're not even at the point yet where we've stabilized the dialing board. We still haven't stabilized that. I'm going to get a little more solder on that. We'll get this out of the way here real quick. And tuck these up where they belong. Now we have a connection here, and we also want to get our piezo buzzer. This black guy here that's flopping around, this component, is the piezo buzzer. So we got to get that back in its place, and everything has to lay just right. Now there is a prong that comes out of the handset here, and I'm going to scrape it clean. I want to scrape that. It's just a ground. But it's not the ground. And I want to make sure. I don't like these little plugs. I used to solder them together, but they're not going to make the unit shut down. That's not the problem, but you know, you do want it to make a connection there, so we did that. Okay. Now, just to check the telephone out, we're not at the point where we've stabilized this board in here yet, and I'm probably not going to do that on the video. It takes a while. You know, each one of these individual points we want to try to secure back up, just for the simple fact that we don't want this board to pop out when you put pressure on the front of it. You're not really supposed to be poking on these buttons real hard to begin with. It shouldn't be that difficult to dial, but we definitely want this board stabilized, and it would take a while to do that, and there's a certain way I like to handle that, and so we don't need that board stabilized at this point to check the telephone out, so the handset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my battery and I'm going to disconnect it now from my little setup where I had my wires. Check dial tone. We can take my battery the little charging plates I made. And we can plug this telephone battery in now. And I'll go ahead and do that. Get that back in there somewhat. And I'm going to set this down, and you can see this light come on, so we know it's in charging mode. If I pick up the handset, okay, so now we kind of just want to hold it together here. Give us some dial tone. I'm barely pushing the buttons. I'm going to end in a 2. Turn it off. Intercom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Turn the intercom off. Turn the phone on. Hit redial. I'm going to let that finish off, racking off the numbers. Okay, and ended in a 2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and transmit into the handset. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Incoming message test. So we know the telephone is working. Now I'm going to reach over here. I want to make sure. That's the cordless phone ringing too. Here's our piezo buzzer for that. We'll turn I'll turn the bass ringer off. Dial tone. Walk through our numbers one more time. And in a 2. Turn it off. Turn it back on. Redial. And it'll end in a 2 over on the analyzer. Okay, so now what we can do is we can go ahead and put the telephone back down on the charger. Make sure that it's charging, and it is, because the light came on. Never hurts to check the bass again. Let that finish off on the analyzer. Turn it off.